a number of variables, we see that winter has gotten about 10% worse in the last 10 years.
I think that climate change is real and it's happening.
You know, operations kind of swung left and right, so absolutely we're 100% impacted by global warming.
I'm working with Mother Nature year-round, and I would do anything to, save the sport, but who knows, maybe we'll just put a dome over the area.
Vermont's ski industry represents big money, about $1.6 billion in the 2022 season. 350,000 skiers hit the slopes and around 13,000 people are employed, but that industry is facing some major challenges. Because of warm weather, some resorts had to close temporarily and stockpile man-made snow for colder conditions.
I think there has definitely been differences. I remember when I was a kid, we would always say, oh, there's like a February thaw and it might get warm for a couple days, in February or sometime in the winter. But what I've noticed is it seems like that just happens more frequently.
This sparked the question, what happened to Vermont's snowy climate? Many experts believe the answer is clear: climate change.
In Denver.
Seriously? You're teaching them. I've taught skiing for 45 years. I started at age 15 as a junior instructor, and I've gone all through the whole ranks of the instructing world. I've worked at Bolton for 20 years and here for 23 now. So I just enjoy the teaching aspect. That's the impact for me. I love watching the people get it, and from age 2 on up, we've got kids out here at a year and a half old at this point that are sliding with their mom and dad.
Cochran's is a tiny ski hill in Richmond that's historic, producing 6 Olympians in its time. But this legendary training ground is going through some change.
We didn't get snow until about 3 weeks ago, appreciable snow this winter. And we're not up on a mountain here either. We're right down here at river level. The Winooski is 100 yards away there, so.
Well, it was definitely a hard year. It was definitely a hard year for us because it was warm. In a place like this, we don't have the elevation of most other ski areas. So the beginning of this year was a little rough.
This year's been better, but we're lucky for that. And thank God for snowmaking.
Meteorologists see a broader change in the weather patterns. Haley Boulay forecasts weather for My Champlain 2244.
My voice here because it's such a cold wind, and combine that with the snow.
Well, climate change has definitely put a stop to a lot of our wintertime activities, not just the ski industry, but snowmobiling, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, all things that people come up here for the snow to, pump our local economy. And if we don't have snow, people aren't coming.
The National Weather Service has an office in the Burlington Airport. NWS staff track weather patterns and say they've noticed a change in snowfall over the past couple years.
I think the one thing that's kind of the most obvious to me is a lot more kind of marginal events. So this year specifically, I'm sure you guys have seen, there's been a lot of events where we're saying, is it going to be rain or is it going to be snow? Even in December, January, and February, we're having this conversation. And that wasn't a conversation we had 20 years ago. 20 years ago when we had these big storms, they were all snow.
Yeah, so Vermont has seen a rise in temperatures over the past few years in a variety of different ways. We're finding shorter cold snaps and less days below 32 degrees, which, obviously can impact the snowpack.
Bolton Valley Resort is a mid-sized ski area with 5,000 acres of high mountain forest, 71 trails, and 165 acres of skiable terrain. Like many other areas, Bolton is feeling the pressure of climate change.
We're all investing more and more in snowmaking, including little old Bolton Valley. We're certainly putting much more onus on the snowmaking. So places like Killington will be skiing and riding until the end of May. That's on snowmaking. That's not on natural snow.
The patterns are not patterns anymore, if you will. So, in order for us to keep consistent with our opening dates, definitely very reliant on snowmaking.
Can't afford, we don't have the resources to blow that much snow. It's wildly expensive. If you want to extend your season, start earlier and later, the 90% of the winters, you're going to be on snowmaking snow.
The changes are happening. We can almost see them happening kind of season to season, which feels like it's in real time. So it's pretty urgent. Even though the number of ski visitors to Vermont increased a little bit in 2022 compared to the previous year, the trend over the last 10 years has been down meaningfully.
When it comes to snow reporting, trying to predict future forecasts, Mount Mansfield is our reference point for all things snow.
Mount Mansfield has been Vermont's indicator for snow. At 4,395 feet, Mount Mansfield is the highest mountain in the state.
So on top of Mount Mansfield, there's about 50 inches of snow right now. Normally for this time of year, we have about 66 inches of snow, so we're running at about 16 inches below where we should be.
And again, then if you look at Mount Mansfield, which is at 3,900 feet, it tells a similar story. There, the snow stays a lot longer. It's like May 25th that they tend to lose their snowpack. And again, it's a couple days earlier in the last several years.
Due to the height of Mansfield, various elevations are measured to see how much snowfall they get. This data helps ski resorts figure out how much snow will be at a given elevation. Given the snow on Mansfield has been about 16 inches below average, that's been bad news for corresponding elevations at Bolton Valley.
Ultimately, it's hard to predict what we'll see next year when the years are just not kind of having a consistent pattern. So definitely a little troubling.
For many in the Vermont ski industry, what's troubling is the cost. Smaller resorts shoulder a heavier burden when making snow. Its production is tougher on the bottom line.
Yes, some reports have shown that the 2021 to 22 season experienced a $100 million decline in revenue.
As the weather continues to be erratic, how will ski areas thrive? Some places are turning their facilities into event spaces or summertime destinations.
We've also purchased the Ponds wedding venue and did a renovation of the Timberline Lodge to make both of those really first-class groups, sales, events, and weddings destinations. There's no more waiting. To make this a viable business, it really needs to be a year-round resort business. And a lot of that has to do with just winter getting a little shorter.
The Vermont ski industry is definitely looking at a period of significant decline, unfortunately, and so the urgency is really high. Again, if we have 13 million visitors per year, certainly many people come here during the summer.
The future of the industry is changing now that there's weather unpredictability. That uncertainty has many worried about what would happen if skiing and boarding were to melt away.
We carry this victory of the season, with a grain of salt, knowing that it's not necessarily going to be the same trend next year. So yeah, definitely something I'm wary about for sure.
The issue is urgent. A significant portion of those tourists come in the winter, and if the key winter sport of skiing, downhill skiing, alpine skiing, is declining because of these environmental factors, then we really have an urgent need to identify ways to replace that revenue in the economy.
Skiing has been a big part of my life for, as I said, much of my life. So it would be really sad. I mean, it would be unfortunate, and I think it's a great thing that a place like this exists for the community around here.
I just love outdoors, and I love being one with the world, right? And that's what you're doing when you're skiing. And you get on the mountain and you just see how huge it is, and what kind of geological consequences have forced that over the millennia, and to be part of that is just really special for me.
We'll hope for the best. We're still in Vermont, right?
Am I looking? You want me looking at you, Pat, generally,
You
or?
both write all the questions.
Okay.
Bye.